Imagine living your daily life feeling mostly normal, maybe just a bit more tired after meals, or noticing that your waistline is a little thicker than it used to be. Your blood tests show slightly higher glucose, but nothing your doctor seems worried about yet. You're told to watch it, maybe lose a few pounds. What you don't realize is that, beneath the surface, your body might already be battling insulin resistance, a condition that's quietly becoming one of the most urgent health crises of our time. Insulin resistance is sneaky. It rarely announces itself with obvious symptoms. Instead, it works silently, sometimes for years, before you see clear signs like prediabetes, high blood sugar, or even a diagnosis of type 2 diabetes. By the time you hear those words in your doctor's office, your body's ability to manage blood sugar has likely been deteriorating for a long while. So, what exactly is insulin resistance? It's a breakdown in the way your body uses insulin, the hormone responsible for moving sugar from your blood into your cells for energy. When you eat foods high in fat, especially processed oils, fried foods, and animal products, fat can build up inside your cells. This excess fat blocks insulin's signal, making it harder for glucose to enter. It's like knocking on a door that refuses to open. Your pancreas, in response, pumps out even more insulin. But over time, this system gets overwhelmed. And here's where the real trouble begins. Insulin resistance is a root cause behind not just diabetes, but also heart attacks, fatty liver, obesity, and even Alzheimer's disease. According to the CDC, a staggering 88 million adults in the U.S. have prediabetes, and more than 80% don't even know it. What's most alarming? Many people try to fix the problem by cutting carbs or sugars alone, but still see little improvement. That's because the true culprit, hidden fats and oils in everyday foods, often goes unnoticed. Dr. Alan Goldhamer, founder of TrueNorth Health Center, discovered something groundbreaking. Real healing often begins not just with dietary changes, but by giving the body a genuine metabolic reset, a break from constant digestion and fat overload. In this section, we'll uncover why insulin resistance is on the rise, why traditional diets often fall short, and how a shift in understanding and eating can help you regain control before it's too late. What is insulin resistance and why it's rising fast? You might not feel it right away. There's no sudden pain, no alarming symptoms. But insulin resistance could already be setting the stage for one of the most dangerous health spirals of your life. It begins quietly. Maybe you're carrying a little extra weight around your waist. You feel sluggish after meals. Blood work shows your glucose levels creeping up. But your doctor says, let's just keep an eye on it. Here's the part most people miss by the time you're diagnosed with prediabetes. Your body may have been fighting insulin resistance for years. Silently. Insulin is the hormone that helps move sugar from your bloodstream into your cells, where it's used for energy. But when your body is exposed to too much fat, especially the kind found in processed foods and oils, your cells start to ignore insulin's signal. It's like trying to open a locked door with the wrong key. So your pancreas pumps out even more insulin, trying to force the sugar in. Over time, this cycle wears out your system. Blood sugar rises, energy crashes, inflammation spreads, and the results aren't just diabetes. Insulin resistance is linked to nearly every major chronic disease: heart attacks, Alzheimer's disease, sometimes called type 3 diabetes, fatty liver, obesity, even some cancers. According to the CDC, An estimated 88 million adults in the U.S. are living with prediabetes, and more than 80% of them don't even know it. But here's what's even more concerning. Many of them are trying to eat healthier, switching to low-carb or keto diets, or loading up on supplements. Yet their insulin resistance barely improves. Why? Because they're missing the real cause. And what Dr. Goldhamer discovered at his clinic in California might surprise you. It's not about carbs. It's not even about cutting sugar alone. It's about what's been silently building up inside your cells, and how to give your body the break it desperately needs. Why diet alone often isn't enough. Let's say you've made the switch. You're cutting out desserts. You've replaced sodas with water. Maybe you've even started cooking more at-home salads, grilled vegetables, whole grains. On paper, you're doing everything right, but your blood sugar still won't budge. And this is where many people hit a wall, frustrated, confused, and starting to wonder if their body is just broken. The truth. Even a seemingly healthy diet can fail to reverse insulin resistance if it's still loaded with hidden fats, oils, and processed foods. Let's take a closer look. You might toss some olive oil on your salad, thinking it's heart healthy. But oil, even so-called healthy oils, is 100% fat, stripped of fiber and nutrients. Just 1 tablespoon has over 120 calories of pure fat. And that fat doesn't just disappear. It gets stored in your liver and muscles, worsening insulin resistance from the inside out. Even healthy plant-based meals from restaurants or meal kits are often full of salt, sugar, and oil. These ingredients trigger inflammation and overwhelm the body's ability to manage insulin properly. And here's something else most people don't realize even if you cut out sugar entirely. A high-fat diet can still cause blood sugar spikes. Why? Because that fat interferes with insulin's job blocking glucose from entering your cells. So while diet is key, not all diets are created equal. Dr. Goldhamer found that his patients didn't just need better food choices, they needed a complete metabolic reset. A way to give their bodies a break from constant digestion, fat storage, and insulin overload. That's when he turned to one of the most ancient healing tools known to medicine, but one we rarely consider today: fasting. And what happened next was transformative. Fasting as a metabolic reset. It might sound extreme. Going days, even weeks without food. Isn't that dangerous? That's what most people think until they see the results. At TrueNorth Health Center in Santa Rosa, California, Dr. Alan Goldhamer has guided thousands of patients through a practice that's both ancient and clinically proven: supervised water-only fasting. Here's how it works. Patients stop eating entirely for a period of time, consuming only water, typically between 5 and 40 days, under close medical supervision. No supplements, no juices, just water and rest. And while that might sound like deprivation, what's happening inside the body is powerful. Once the digestive system gets a break, the body switches from burning sugar for fuel to burning fat. That fat, especially the kind packed around the liver and muscles, is one of the biggest culprits behind insulin resistance. By tapping into fat stores, the body begins clearing out the intracellular fat that interferes with insulin signaling. Inflammation drops, blood pressure falls, and remarkably, insulin sensitivity starts to return, often within days. Dr. Goldhamer describes this as a biochemical reboot. You're not just lowering numbers, you're reversing the process that created the disease in the first place. In one study of patients who completed water-only fasts at TrueNorth, many were able to eliminate or drastically reduce their need for medication, including for high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. And the transformation isn't just physical. People often report more energy, clearer thinking, and a sense of renewal. But here's the key point. Fasting isn't the solution by itself. The fast resets the system, but what you eat afterward determines whether the healing lasts. Because if you return to oils, sugar, and processed food, even healthy-looking ones, you'll be back where you started. That's why Dr. Goldhamer pairs fasting with something just as important, a long-term dietary strategy designed to prevent insulin resistance from ever coming back. And the food he recommends next, it's not a miracle berry or an exotic powder. It's something simple, whole, natural, and it's probably already in your kitchen. After the fast comes the real test. What do you feed a body that's just been reset? Dr. Goldhamer is clear about this part. It's not about adding supplements or protein powders. It's not about going keto or raw or high carb. It's much simpler and far more effective. He recommends a diet that's free of 3 common but harmful ingredients: salt, oil, and sugar. Or as he calls it, the SOS-free diet. So what's left when you take those out? Whole, unprocessed plant foods. That means steamed leafy greens like kale, spinach, and chard. Whole grains such as brown rice, quinoa, and millet. Legumes, beans, lentils, chickpeas. Root vegetables like sweet potatoes and squash. Fresh fruits in moderation, especially once insulin sensitivity has improved. These foods are rich in fiber, antioxidants, and essential nutrients, but they're also naturally low in fat and calories. And most importantly, they're designed by nature, not by food companies. The fiber in these foods slows down glucose absorption, helping your blood sugar stay stable. The absence of oil and processed fat means your cells can finally start to respond to insulin the way they're supposed to. Let's pause here for a moment. Because we've been taught for decades that oil is healthy, that olive oil, coconut oil, or avocado oil are good fats. But the truth is, even these so-called health foods are stripped of fiber and nutrients, and they're extremely calorie-dense. Just 1 tablespoon of oil has more fat than an entire baked potato. Dr. Goldhamer's patients don't count carbs. They don't track calories. They eat as much as they want of these whole plant foods and still reverse insulin resistance, lose weight, and regain energy. And remember, this isn't about eating bland or boring meals. With spices, herbs, and creativity, a SOS-free plant diet can be full of flavor and variety. But it takes commitment. Because once you reset your body, you have to keep fueling it with foods that support healing, not foods that recreate the problem. This is the real one food that heals insulin resistance, not a single superfood, but a whole category of natural, unprocessed plants, eaten in abundance and without additives. And what happens when people commit to this? The results speak for themselves. Real results and medical evidence. At this point, you might be wondering, does this really work? Not just in theory, but in real lives. The answer is yes. And the evidence is both clinical and deeply personal. At TrueNorth Health Center, Dr. Goldhamer and his team have supervised more than 20,000 water-only fasts. Patients come from all over the world, not just to lose weight, but to get off medication, reverse chronic disease, and reclaim their lives. In one study published in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine, participants with high blood pressure who completed a supervised fast, followed by an SOS-free diet, saw significant and sustained drops in their blood pressure, often enough to eliminate medication entirely. But the story goes beyond numbers. Take Brian, a man in his early 50s. He was overweight, struggling with high blood sugar, and taking multiple medications for type 2 diabetes. After fasting for 21 days at TrueNorth and adopting the SOS-free diet, his fasting blood glucose dropped dramatically. His energy returned. He lost over 40 pounds. And within months, he was off all his diabetes meds with his doctor's approval. Or consider Maria, a woman in her 60s with metabolic syndrome and early-stage fatty liver disease. After just 2 weeks of fasting and a month on the SOS-free diet, her liver function improved, her cholesterol dropped, and her doctor canceled her statin prescription. And perhaps what's most powerful is this: these results weren't temporary. They were maintained months and even years later, because the patients didn't just fast. They changed the way they eat, for good. And there's growing support from mainstream research as well. Studies from Harvard, the NIH, and other medical institutions are increasingly highlighting the benefits of whole food, plant-based diets in reversing insulin resistance and preventing type 2 diabetes. The science is catching up to what Dr. Goldhamer has seen for decades, that the body knows how to heal if we get out of its way. But even as these stories inspire, it's important to approach this path with care. Because while the method is natural, it's not for everyone. Cautions and who this is not. For as powerful as water-only fasting and the SOS-free plant-based diet can be, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. In fact, if done the wrong way or without proper medical oversight, it can be dangerous. First, let's talk about fasting. Dr. Goldhamer is adamant this is not something to try at home without supervision. At TrueNorth, patients are closely monitored with daily vital checks, lab work, and physician visits. That's because during a fast, blood pressure can drop rapidly. Medication dosages often need adjusting, and certain conditions like arrhythmias or electrolyte imbalances can become serious. Water-only fasting is not recommended for children, teens, or pregnant women. People who are underweight or malnourished, those on complex medication regimens, individuals with eating disorders or certain mental health conditions. But here's the encouraging part. You don't have to fast to start healing. For many people, simply removing oil, sugar, and excess salt from the diet and replacing them with whole, fiber-rich plant foods can dramatically improve insulin sensitivity over time. It might take longer without fasting, but it's still powerful, and it's accessible to nearly everyone. If you're curious about trying this approach, the first step is to speak with a healthcare provider, ideally one who understands nutrition and supports plant-based interventions. You may also want to explore a short, medically supervised fast at a reputable center if that's available to you. Because when done right, this isn't a quick fix. It's a doorway to long-term transformation, one meal, one choice at a time. Insulin resistance doesn't have to be a lifelong sentence. It doesn't require a cabinet full of pills or a diet that feels like punishment. What it does require is understanding. Understanding that healing starts when we stop overloading our bodies, when we give our systems a break, and when we feed them the kinds of foods that nature intended, unprocessed, whole, nourishing. Dr. Goldhamer's work reminds us that the most powerful medicine isn't a new discovery. It's a return to simplicity. A short period of fasting can reset your system, and what you eat afterward, that's what keeps you healthy for life. If you or someone you love is dealing with insulin resistance, pre-diabetes, or type 2 diabetes, here are 3 simple things you can do starting today. Clear out added oils, sugars, and processed foods, even the ones labeled healthy. Focus your meals on unprocessed plant foods, greens, beans, whole grains, and vegetables. Talk to a doctor who understands nutrition and ask about plant-based or medically supervised fasting as a tool for healing. And most importantly, don't keep this to yourself. Share this video with a friend or family member who's struggling with blood sugar issues. You might be giving them the spark they need to change their life. Because healing isn't just possible, it's already happening. One meal at a time.